Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is brought to you by Excite Medical and the DRX 9000, Peach State Payments, Recover, Chiro HD, Softwave, Cool Blue BA, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Script AI, Chiro Moguls, The Chiro Speaking Company, Pure Chiro Notes, 5-Star Forge, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, and the IFCO. You can benefit from our full list of sponsors by visiting the sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now, let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 703 of the Chiro Hustle Podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we have the opportunity of interviewing Dan McCoy. If you want to understand all things cybersecurity, EHR, and spam, stay tuned for the full episode. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle Podcast. They have Dan McCoy on, longtime friend, advocate for chiropractic, helping chiropractors with their tech. His company is called subluxation.com. Nobody wants to be subluxated, especially your technology. We're going to talk about a lot of cool things, but he's been working with chiropractors for many years. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of it. And we're going to talk about 3 pain points: cybersecurity, EHRs, and spam. I know, really popular conversation today, but he's a pilot too. And we're going to talk about his life as a pilot and how to expand your life outside of just doing work all the time. This is episode 703. I'm going to let you know our big why. Why do we do what we do? Well, first things first is freedom of speech. We think that that's so important to everybody. We know what it's like to be shadow banned, traffic throttled, and censored. We'd never do that to you. We believe in medical freedom and family health freedom. We think that they're so important. They're not the same things, but if you need help with either of those topics, go find a chiropractor in your city. Philosophically established, we believe in protecting the sacred trust. If you don't know what that is, go to the show notes, click on the link. You're going to learn more about chiropractic than you previously did, I guarantee you. I know we shouldn't have to talk about all this stuff, but please share this with students. Share the show. Please share this with your community. If you have a new grad or somebody that's been out of school that didn't get chiropractic philosophy, share the show with them. I know that they'll need the information that we share here. We do support subluxation-based chiropractic. Once again, they're taking this language out of the colleges, so we need to get this onto the campuses. We need to get this into the students' lives. We do believe in innate intelligence, universal intelligence, and educated intelligence. We believe that when man or woman, the physical, gets adjusted, it connects them to man or woman, the spiritual, which creates the educated intelligence. With that, Dan McCoy, you were on episode 62. It's been quite a bit of time since 2018 into 2025 now. I'm really excited to have you back on, man.
I'm excited to be here. 641 episodes later. It's been too long, brother, but I'm thrilled to be here.
That's what I said when we first connected again. I was like, you know, there is it's been too long.
Yeah, it's been a while, but you know what? We're here and we're going to make the best of it. And we're just going to rock it, man. It's just going to have fun. We're just going to have fun.
Yeah, that's what you said to me in the questions that you sent back. We were texting and you're like, what do you want to accomplish? I go, I want to have fun. So I think that that's a good place to establish. And you've been working with chiropractors for some time now.
Yeah. Since 2013.
Yeah. So the good, the bad, and the ugly. What are some things that you've seen that you've been working in that have been the good side of the profession?
I love the passion that chiropractic has for wellness, true wellness, not just what's being driven to them by some other folks. Like I saw somebody, a chiropractic friend of mine, post something the other day that he said that insurance companies practice chiropractic without a license. And I was like, ooh, that's deep. Because when somebody else is telling you what you can and can't do, how you can and cannot help the human body perform at its best, then there's a problem. And so, what's good is the passion. I love that so many people just care and they drive, sometimes a little too enthusiastically, but I think they drive to really help others. And they want to do what's right and they want to do the things that help them do that the most. They just care about other people and want to help them. So I think that is the good or great aspects of chiropractic.
Yeah, and I think we do. We need to work on where we're going with this next administration is making America healthy again.
Mm-hmm.
And
Uh-huh.
that is a good, because I think that's unifying the profession's message.
Yeah, I think you have a real unique opportunity right now to start planning. Hopefully you already have been, but start planning how you're going to communicate to the masses, maybe even in a bigger way now that hopefully you don't get shadow banned and things like that as time changes. Hopefully we see some shifts in the messaging of what's allowed, or what should have been allowed under free speech already, but what is truly allowed from the platforms.
So you get in and you work inside of people's systems, and you work inside of their clinic, basically the back of the house, and you help figure out what's going on and how things are connected, and just overall you do a cybersecurity protection over people's businesses. So let's talk about something you've seen over the past, I'd say, 2 years, something really bad, something you've seen that we need to bring attention to.
I think if I can just start at a very basic level, and that is that if you say that you care about reaching people and helping people get well, then you need to understand where the risks are in your business. And this is bigger than just cybersecurity, but in general, where the risks are in your business that can prevent you from doing the thing that you say that you're so passionate about, right? So start with the foundations. Like, what are the things that can impact you? It could be at the family level and having life insurance. It could be at the business level having the proper coverages for malpractice, right? People know they need to have malpractice, but they probably don't know that they need network data breach or cyber liability insurance. Why? Because if you have an incident, do you want to be paying the lawyer out of pocket to represent you? Do you want to be paying the notification expenses out of pocket for all of that? Do you want to have to spend time doing that, or to be able to hire a firm to do that and have an insurance company pay for it? So those are the types of things you've got to pay attention to understand where the foundations are. So when you ask what a problem that we see, I see all the time chiropractors working with vendors that have not done what is necessary to properly protect them. I've seen chiropractors using backup companies to back up their data, and they are not companies that have the proper level of protection from a HIPAA standpoint to be able for you to work with them legally. So what does that mean? What does that mean? So we had a situation very recently where a company, a chiropractor in Connecticut, had backed up their data, and the company had a breach. And the company had signed a business associate agreement from a HIPAA standpoint. But what happened was the data was lost. And now this wasn't even HIPAA. This is the point I'm trying to, everybody goes, oh, I don't fall under HIPAA or this or that. Well, the state of Florida alone has 31 privacy laws beyond, just within the state itself. HIPAA's federal. So even though that big fish, John Davila used to talk about this, like he had a big fish and then his smaller fish and then a smaller fish. Just because the big fish isn't the problem, you still have to deal with the smaller fish, right? So the state itself came down hard on them, and they said, because even though that they signed a business associate agreement saying that they were compliant to HIPAA, because you, Mr. Chiropractor, did not do the diligence to actually vet these guys and prove that you checked into them to make sure that they actually do the things they said they did, they were fined $130,000. So what that becomes is a precedent that you the chiropractor have to do diligence to make sure that these companies that you work with, the billing companies, the backup companies, not just technology, like even anybody who touches your personal health information or your patient information, they have to be compliant to HIPAA. And it's the onus is on you to go figure that out. And you go like, I don't know how to do that. Exactly. You need help.
Well, that was just it. Is I'm like, how do people link up and get that information? Because I'm not really aware of where people go to find these compliant companies that are vendors for chiropractors.
A solid company like ours, Tech Subluxation, that helps, that understands the challenges, the 360-degree challenges that you need. You need a solid cybersecurity company who understands HIPAA and will advocate for you, whoever that is, wherever that is. But they need to understand the risks that you face in your practice. Since we work almost exclusively with chiropractors, then we understand all those areas. So you need to work with someone who can ask the right questions and drive to these vendors beyond the, oh, yes, I'm compliant. Like we actually have a list of 10 questions that we ask these guys that they can't say yes or no to. They have to answer questions that you won't just put a tick in the box and pass. So it's things like that. You have to invest in your practice with the right partners to help you be successful.
So let's talk about students now. Somebody's coming right out of chiropractic school and they're clueless about cybersecurity, EHRs, and what to do. How do you guide them?
Well, let's just step back for a second. Every person needs a coach. And whether you're coaching, you come out of school, you don't have two nickels to rub together, perhaps. You have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt. You've got to get cash flowing. I get that. But part of being a business owner is understanding everything you need to have. So whether it's just understand from a business perspective, you need someone to guide you on how to build a business. What does that look like? What are the risk points? And I don't think you can ignore technology today. I think you have to look at getting someone to help you be successful in starting a business. We've had a couple of folks who we've just, I think you've even interviewed a few of them, but just people who are starting right out. What do you need to do? Quick conversation, whatever. I'm actually thinking about building a group where students can join and just ask questions. Just give them a resource to be able to get information and just give people the ability to get information on the cheap, if not free, where they can just ask questions. You know, it's not going to be instant response, but at least they get data. We've already got that, by the way. We've got a group.
Well, I look at it from this angle. Is it's the same thing as doing sales. Is give people what they want, sell them what they need. And a lot of times people, once they get into your network, they get information and then they'll take the next step with you as a coach or as a guide or somebody that's going to, give them a play-by-play of what they need to do in order to be compliant and protected in this tech world. Because
when you talk about the ugly, Jim, I'm sorry, I got to go back to this. When you talk about the ugly, I think the ugliest thing I hear in chiropractic is that you don't need to sell. I see it posted out there all the time. I don't need to sell. Patients are just going to walk in the door. Innate speak for itself. That's absolute hogwash. Okay, listen. Unless you're marketing to pain, you have got to get out of your own head. Chiropractors, I'm going back there. I'm going to go there. Chiropractors need to get out of their own way and stop the nonsense that chiropractic sells itself. They do not understand your language. Patients do not understand your language. You could say they do all they want, they don't. So selling, this is head trash with selling. Selling is getting somebody emotionally involved in an outcome or intellectually involved in an outcome that is good for them. So if what you do is good for them, then help them understand that. If you go to a restaurant, Jim, and you love that restaurant, You are going to tell people about that restaurant. That is getting somebody intellectually involved in an outcome that's good for them. They're going to enjoy a great meal. And if you take that, if you believe that chiropractic is what you say it is, and then it does what it does, and I do because I've experienced it. My family was saved through chiropractic. Because of that, I'm an advocate. Because of that, I serve chiropractors. Because of that, I tell people that they need to get into chiropractic. Because of that, I have an employee, or a former employee, who when they came to me were on all kinds of pain medications, and to this day are pain-free thanks to chiropractic.
You made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is brought to you by Excite Medical and the DRX 9000, Peach State Payments, Recover, Chiro HD, Softwave, Cool Blue BA, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Script AI, Chiro Moguls, The Chiro Speaking Company, Pure Chiro Notes, 5-Star Forge, Kytronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, and the IFCO. You can benefit from our full list of sponsors by visiting the sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now, let's hustle. Well, I know that the general public doesn't understand the language inside the profession. And they don't understand what innate intelligence is. It took me 10 years to understand what innate intelligence was. And I'm, in the profession. And I think that when you break it down, the philosophy of chiropractic, that's by opening it up and say, hey, we need to get this to more students. They're taking this out of the colleges. I think that that's an ugly part. That's why I bring it front and center. That's why I ask people to share the show, because I see where the gaps are in the profession. And a lot of it's the language of philosophy, and it's being lost upon the practitioners, not just the public's perception of not knowing what chiropractic really does, and the chiropractor thinking that everybody should already know what chiropractors do based on what they know. It's a professional responsibility for all of us to make chiropractic more understandable. But like you said, if people just go in and get care, now we get them off the drugs. Now we have an opportunity, like you said at the beginning of the show, now we have an opportunity to really capitalize at this moment and our administration to go out and actually get people under more chiropractic care, because whether we like to admit it or not, the administration is going to push for more alternative care.
As they should.
If chiropractors aren't interested in being alternative care, then we need to figure out how to get chiropractic more supported through the current administration as chiropractic and not as an alternative to the medical industry. So it's going to take all of us to work together in order to make this ugly go away when it comes to the chiropractor thinking that people should just go see a chiropractor because we think that they should see a chiropractor.
One of the best ways to do that, Jim, is to make sure that they're profitable. Every chiropractic clinic needs to be profitable. Chiropractors should be the highest paid practitioners on the planet. Why? Because they're helping people do helping their bodies to perform at the bias, right? Getting rid of the interference and allowing their bodies to adapt and function at their highest levels. And that's the biggest challenge, I think, is getting out of the own way. And let's get past that 14%, because at the end of the day, that chiropractors are speaking a language and helping people at the highest levels. And they need people to help them elevate. That's why our model, which we call 3P, is protection, productivity, profitability. You're a chiropractor and you want people to come in and be proactive with their health, yet you're in a relationship with an IT guy who charges you to be reactive when you're broken. So you're saying you want to work one way, but yet you have systems and partners or vendors that are working a different way. Like, it's incongruent. So why not work with someone who is proactive with your network that tries to help keep you up and running so that you don't go down and have a problem that prevents you from seeing the patients who you say you're going to. If you're seeing 400 patient visits a week and your EHR goes down, you're not seeing 400 patient visits a week. Do you even have a plan of what to do when that happens, right? So those are the types of things that have to be thought of. So you've got to create a foundation of protection, right? And then use the technology to actually be protective, right? Productive, more productive, multiple monitors, right? That type of thing. And then drive profitability using intelligence, using AI, using different things to actually grow your business.
Well, I want to go back into, you mentioned EHR, and I know one of the talking points that you originally threw out to me was talking about avoiding switching EHRs. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, this is pure gold. You guys are going to want to grab a pen if you don't. First of all, I will maintain, I'm going to go into this conversation with the fact that you should not be looking to switch your EHR. Okay, I'm going to drop the bombshell right away. You need to not switch your EHR. There are very few valid reasons for you changing EHRs. You might think you know why, but I promise you the grass is not greener on the other side. I'll tell you exactly what happens. Shiny object salesman comes in, shiny object marketing comes in, and they now start selling you on this feature and that feature, and you realize that your current EHR doesn't have that feature, or you don't think it has that feature. And now you go, I don't like this, I like that, and I want to switch. The problem is your emotions have got the best of you, and you're not thinking clearly. Because what you don't understand is the amount of effort it's going to take to switch. You don't understand the amount of time and frustration that it's going to drive to your staff. You may be able to handle it, but they can't because they don't like change and they have not been brought along in a concept or a culture of what growth truly happens. And you, most importantly, you don't have a system to change. You don't know what the impact is going to be. Case in point, we helped one of our clients switch from a combination of Eclipse for billing and scheduling and mind is blanking on the name of the other note right now. It was a note-taking system, but he used two different products for that, and he switched to ChiroTouch. This has nothing to do with those three EHRs. This just has to do with the amount of effort that goes into that. He was seeing 275 patient visits a week, and he realized after he made that switch that it took him hiring a full-time person for 8 months at 275 patient visits a week to effect that transition. Full-time dedicated person, 8 months, and they still 2 years later were running both systems side by side. So, can you do it? Yes. What is the cost going to be, and can you handle it? That's the question you have to answer. And if you're going to go into a system or into something like that, you better go into it eyes wide open. Eyes wide open. So I will repeat what I said, that you do not figure out a way to make what you have work. If you aren't having calls with your EHR provider, if you're using ChiroTouch, you're not on the phone with ChiroTouch asking how you can do this better or do that better, or you're not talking to someone like us or another provider who understands that system, who can at least facilitate, then you're missing out, because 9 times out of 10, you probably already have the functionality within that EHR that you need, but just don't know it. So walk into it eyes wide open. There are 3 key areas, Jim. This is the part this is a writer downer. There are 3 key areas that you need to pay attention to when you're evaluating changing EHRs to determine if you're going to even do it. One is front office. So think scheduling, marketing, the things that bring people in the door and get them scheduled. The second is the clinical side, SOAP notes, what the doctor does during or shortly after their visit. And then the third part of it is billing or back office. So think, how do you get the claim paid if you're using insurance? I know there's a big push to either start cash-based or not, submit to insurances and things like that. I'm not going to even get into cash practices and that whole concept right now. But the if you are billing on the backside, what does that look like? How does that work? How do you get paid? How do you get paid quickly? How do you make sure there's no errors, right? So look at what you currently have that is working well and have your staff document and yourself document everything you love about the current EHR. Document everything that you hate and formulate a system. So I can probably help facilitate that a whole lot better, but still, we do this for our clients. In fact, one of our clients, we evaluated 6 different EHRs, and we used this checklist, and we asked them that question. And here's the killer question nobody ever asks. You all ready for this, Jim? Ask the vendor where they suck. What don't you guys do well? Because if I know if I know my limitations and what I don't do well, I'm going to be forthcoming with that. And that ought to be a tell to see how honest that salesperson is. You will catch them off guard, but it's a great question to ask. Now you go into it eyes wide open, you have a system to evaluate, and then you evaluate every single EHR with all of those questions. And now you can start making an informed decision if you decide you're going to switch.
Yeah, that's one of the questions I offer everybody, a process that comes on as a sponsor for our show. I do something called the $1 Million Call, and I ask them what their business is lacking. And that's how we open up the whole conversation. I let them pretty much tell on themselves, and I find out what they need help with the most. And then I give them the opportunity to go through our database and pick out 5 to 10 people that they need access to and how I can help facilitate that relationship. And I think
that's awesome.
Yeah, right. And when you start to identify where somebody's lacking and they're willing to be honest with you, that gives you the chance to help them better. And I think that there's a lot of times when you come into people's lives that you start to investigate what they're doing, and you don't need to develop a problem for them. But if you started to have them tell you what their problems are and where they see they have blind spots, maybe, then you can start saying, okay, well, I have these 5 solutions for you now.
Yeah.
Or what do you think that you need? And then I'll be able to help you better. So I think it's really important for people to understand that guys like us that have been in the industry for a long time, we have a lot of resources. And that if people are just willing to be honest with us and tell us what they need the most, we can help them. And that's a big part about what you're talking about is don't switch the EHR, find solutions to keep what you're doing working well. Because honestly, the hardest thing that anybody will ever do, and basically what you're doing is you're hiring a new employee when you switch an EHR.
Worse.
Yeah.
You're hiring a whole bunch of them.
Mm-hmm. And those are the hardest parts for the growth of a business is when you hire wrong. When you don't know how to hire the right people to work inside your organization, whether it be a vendor, those are the hardest things to recover from.
I like that, Jim.
Yeah,
I love that. I'm going to write that one down because you're hiring. That's really a good analogy. You're hiring an employee when you do that, and honestly, the level of control you have over that employee is limited.
Mm-hmm.
You're kind of stuck you're kind of stuck with their personality. And you better make sure they're the right fit for your culture. I love that. I'm so going to use that example going forward. That's gold.
Well, it goes back to this idea that you brought to my attention of relationships. For maximum growth, you need to have great relationships within the clients that you take care of, the people that you use to, that you buy your supplies from, or you use their services from. It all goes down to how important do they make you and how effective are their services for you. And if you're going to be the person that's supposed to be taking care of families and you're supposed to be taking care of people and individuals and integrating in these people's lifestyles, then you have to make it easier on yourself in order to do so. And, they always say hire slow and fire fast. I think the same thing could apply for what we think about with technology is, integrate slow and really make good decisions if you move away from what you've integrated with, because
You know,
it can really be a big problem for you.
yeah, and I'll tell you, I'm going to bring this up because people, I'm going to talk about ChiroTouch specifically, and not about the software and in a good or a bad way. But I regularly see in the forums, the support forums out on Facebook, and these are user-run forums, um, where people will complain about that product, and I will tell you 9 times out of 10, we don't have problems with that product. I mean, there are things that happen with it, just like any other piece of software. But for the most part, we don't have a problem, and we don't have a problem with their support. I'll tell you what the problem is: that most chiropractors think that that software company should be helping them solve problems with their network. Because half the time, the problems that people are having are because they went to Best Buy and they bought a cheap old computer on Black Friday, and they went and bought the cheapest residential Linksys router, and they plugged it in and it should work just right. And now they blame the EHR because it doesn't work right because they have a crappy foundation. And if you don't put a good foundation under your house is going to get cracks on it. It's going to start to sag and it's not going to last long. And that's the same challenge in a network. If you don't have a good foundation, it's the same thing in chiropractic. If you are not properly well adjusted and your body's all twisted up, it's not going to perform at its best, right? There's so many parallels in all of this, but people get in the way. You're so blind, you can't see that it all is well connected. And when I'm going to tell you, you're not going to perform at your best as a chiropractor if your network is subluxated, because you're frustrated, you're dealing with that. I talked to a chiropractor the other day, actually a couple months ago, 2 months ago, something like that. He had been trying for 2 months to get his email working. And on 1 2-hour call, we fixed everything for him. And I have a testimonial on my Google page because of that. But the level of frustration, when I got on that call, he was so angry. And when he walked out of that, he was so calm.
Well, I think you're talking about things that are real life. Like earlier, you're talking about like going to a restaurant and you're going to go back to the restaurant if you like the food. And my buddies run a restaurant, and I asked them how many reviews they had. This is just very like, it lines up with what you just shared. And he's like, we have 46 reviews. And I was like, well, how did you get those reviews? And he's like, well, everybody that comes in, they just willingly give us a review. He's like, but has my family given me a review? Yes. Have, people that are friends of mine give me reviews? Yes. But have like real strangers giving me reviews also? Yes. He's like, but I've never done like any type of review campaign. I've never like solicited reviews from people. We just have 46 reviews and we have 1 3-star review. And the guys like love the food. He just didn't like the atmosphere. They run their restaurant out of a bar. And the guy's like, I love the food. I love the people that were working there. I just didn't like that the restaurant inside of a bar. He's like, but when you think about it, like when people work with like a EHR or a podcast or a marketing company or your company Tech Subluxation, and somebody leaves you a review because you help them, now we have to think about like the review economy and what that does for people. I guess this is a tough question, but I think it's a valid question at this point in the interview. Who do you recommend if somebody doesn't have an EHR?
It's not one answer. But there's cloud-based EHRs and then there's on-premise-based or service-based EHRs, right? So
Yeah.
if you're in a cloud-based EHR, there's a handful of them that I recommend that you evaluate to take a look at. Chiro HD is one that I definitely would look at. Chiro Spring or Chiro Spring 360 is one I would look at. Those are all good options to take a close look at and evaluate based upon where you're going. But whether you should go cloud or I've heard JNAP is good. I've never used it. None of my clients have used it, but I've heard that. I'm sorry, sidetrack there. If you're going to go with the cloud, that's fine. But keep in mind that if you don't like your cloud EHR, that data still has to be maintained for 7 years in most cases, and sometimes 10. So what are you going to do if you don't like it? Oh, I'm just going to export it. Ah, cool. How do you get out? Okay, great question. Sean Dill taught me. Right? If you have a problem, if I'm going to engage with you, great. How do we know it's going well? What kind of measurement do we have that it's going well? And then if we aren't going well, how do we part ways? What does that look like? How do I get my data out of your EHR? Do I have to go export it one file at a time? Great. That may not be a big deal if I'm in 6 months and I'm seeing 40 patients a week. That's a big deal if I'm seeing 400 patients a week and I've been in it 6 years. So I have to go one by one. Back to that question I said about who you're going to hire to go export those things one at a time. And do I get everything out in one PDF? Can I suck it into the other? Like, how do I separate from working with you? Am I stuck in a long-term contract? If I'm not, how do we separate if things don't go well? So these are all good things to think about, is how do I know things are working? What do I do if it's not? And how do we part ways? Right? Those are great questions to ask when you're going into a relationship with somebody.
Well, I think your suggestions for who to check out are really good. Actually, Chiro HD has been sponsoring our show for well over a year now. So thank you, Chiro HD, for contributing to what we do over here at Chiro Hustle. And I do think that people just have to realize that it's a long-term relationship that they're getting into when somebody's helping to manage their data. You know, like I switched our podcasting host site to another podcasting host site, and gosh, how much work did that take my team to do to transfer over all of our content and our data and our files to make sure that they were going to the next host site properly. And I'm not a medical facility, so I don't have the same HIPAA compliances where I have to like manage stuff for 7 years off site or whatever it is.
But it's still a lot of work.
But just transferring data from one database to another and switching over servers, like, geez, that whole process, like, I don't wish that on anybody. And if this is like real life, like healthcare patient files, you have to be super strategic when building out this like long-term plan for yourself. And that's a part where most people don't understand the business of technology, and they don't understand how the building a base long-term and having things that work and having tools that work are so important. Like if you're building houses, obviously you want your nail gun to work, you want your circular saw to work, and you want your hammer to work. Like you want things that you can build with that are going to be reliable. And I think it's the same way with technology within your business. People just don't look at their EHR as a tool. They don't look at their email delivery as a tool. They don't look at their cybersecurity as a tool. But if they start looking at those as like real life tools, like their adjusting table to the way that they train their staff, they would create a different base for long-term health of their businesses. So I think what you're doing, Dan, is super powerful, super important to the chiropractic space, and just super thrilled to have you on again as a guest on episode 703. I know we're coming up to the edge of our time together today, but is there anything that I didn't ask you that you wanted to share with our audience today?
I just, we talked a little bit about pilot stuff. Let me just say this. You need to have balance in your life. Everything you do, we hire and we fire on core values and culture within our company. And the number 5 core value in our company is enjoy life and balance the journey. And I don't want my team, there are times when my team has to step up and answer calls late at night because the crap has hit the fan. But on a regular, I don't want that. I don't want them working weekends. I want them to enjoy life and balance the journey. I want them to be healthy. I want healthy relationships in their lives, as I do for every single person. Relationships are key to everything. And so, you've got to take time to do that. So you've got to do the things you love. You've got to figure out the thing you would do, whether you get paid to do it or not. And technology and talking with people and helping them grow, like that's something that drives me and lights me up. And so I work hard, but I also play hard. And I have to play hard in areas that I love to do, and that's flying airplanes. So I do that as much as I possibly can, personally and semi-professionally, in that I fly for Civil Air Patrol, so I don't get paid for that, but I also get to serve the community in areas of disasters. Our squadron did deploy down in North Carolina. I was not personally on that airplane, but a couple of my teammates did. So I'm just saying that we get to do good things in that regard too, and fun things at the same time. So play hard, right? Play hard. Yes, work hard, but play hard. Do not subscribe to this baloney philosophy that you need to work for 40 years like nobody else so that you can enjoy life like nobody else. Dave Ramsey. It's baloney. Yes, work hard. No, don't go rack up a bunch of credit card debt to have a bunch of consumer items on your card. But daggone it, you better take time to spend time with your family, because if you think marriage is expensive, divorce is even more expensive. And I'm married, been married for 26 years. I love my wife, and I intend to keep it that way. So I am spending the time that I need to try to make sure that that doesn't become a problem, to the best of my ability.
So make sure everybody listening here, you have a work-life balance. Go back and check out episode 62 in 2018. That was Dan and I's first episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast together. Today, we just recorded episode 703. I just want to thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your knowledge and your passion for helping chiropractors make sure that they stay safe out there in this big tech world.
Yes, sir.
Well, with that, I will close out like I always do. And I tell people, you're just one story away. Keep hustling. I'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye for now.
See ya.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.